Smoke drifted like gray ribbons across the quiet field where the last battle had ended. The ground was scarred, but the air felt strangely soft, as if the world itself wanted peace. Human medics moved between rows of injured soldiers. Drones hummed low as they swept debris into neat piles. In the distance, the broken spires of the Jirai command tower leaned like tired bones. The war had closed its eyes at last. Captain Marcus Hale stood beside a dismantled barricade with his helmet under his arm. He was not the biggest officer in the unit or the loudest. He was a steady man, with calm eyes and hands that did not shake. He had learned to notice details that other people missed. He saw the way a tired private handed water to a wounded alien without fear. He saw the way wind lifted dust from the wrecked road and dropped it gently, as if setting a promise back down in the world. He saw the way hope behaved when the guns went quiet. A ceremony would begin soon. The Jirai had surrendered. Their council had sent representatives in soft gray cloaks to offer terms. They carried a list: territory to return, credits to pay, technology to share, maps of old minefields the war had made. They also brought captives from their own ranks, the ones they called discards, the ones they considered of no use. Marcus disliked that word. People were not discs or trash. He never said this out loud, but it sat in his chest like a small hot stone. When the order came, he walked to the shattered plaza where a makeshift stage had been built. Human banners hung from broken girders. On the far side, Jirai guards stood. In a straight line, heads bowed. Between them, a group of 20 alien civilians waited behind a thin force screen. Some were tall and proud, with bright metallic skin patterns. Some were stocky and scarred. One, in the back, looked very small. Her wrists were bound with a dull metal cuff. A thin chain ran from the cuff to a post. Her clothes were worn. Her head was lowered. She seemed like a shadow against the ruined wall. Commanders from different human brigades moved across the stage one by one. They were offered choices as part of the surrender agreement. A governor chose land rights for new farms. A colonel chose crates of advanced medical tools for hospitals. A major chose a coil of gravity anchors for rebuilding cities. A few officers selected Jirai military instructors to help teach human academies how to avoid old mistakes. And yes, some soldiers asked for custody of captured Jirai, claiming they wanted to show mercy or learn their ways. Marcus watched them all carefully. He did not judge. He simply saw. When his name was called, the plaza went quieter than before. Marcus stepped forward. His boots clicked against the metal plate on the stage. A Jirai envoy with silver eye lines opened a slate and read, "Captain Marcus Hale, for your actions in the North Ridge offensive and your unit's role in protecting civilian lives at Bridge Sector 12, the Council offers you a reward of your choosing from the list." Marcus looked past the envoy. He let his eyes travel over the captives. He paused, as if listening to a sound only he could hear. That small figure in the back didn't move, but something about her stillness was sharp, like a thread pulled tight. He noticed a tiny flicker on the cuff at her wrist. Not damage, not rust. An old crest almost worn away, a faint pattern of nested circles and a single star. He noticed the way one Jirai guard near her kept his face carefully blank, in a manner that was too careful. He noticed that guard's hand lightly touching his own chest, the briefest sign of respect, then falling back to his side, as if he regretted the reflex. He had seen that star before, not on a battlefield. In a quiet briefing room 2 months earlier, where the lights were dim and a small projector drew secret symbols on a table. A coded report had whispered about a hidden person the Jirai protected by pretending to despise, a songbird inside a cage of plain wood. The report did not use names, but it spoke of the star crest, of the nested circles, and of a title that existed only in old poems. Marcus had listened and said little then. He said little now. The envoy finished reading the formal text and lowered the slate. "Captain, what will you choose?" "I choose her," Marcus said, and pointed toward the small, bound figure in the back. A ripple of confusion moved through the crowd. From the human side, a few voices made surprised sounds. A junior officer leaned toward another and whispered, not as quiet as he thought, "Why that one? She looks like she can barely stand." Another laughed and said, "Maybe he wants an easy task." On the Jirai side, the guard who had held his face too carefully, stone still, looked up with quick, alarmed eyes. The envoy blinked once and looked down at the slate as if it might show a mistake. "You are certain?" the envoy asked. "You have rights to select weapons, or technology unseen, or—" "I am certain," Marcus said. "I ask that her chains be removed immediately. She will be under my protection." The envoy's mouth tightened, but he nodded. He issued a command in his own language. The force screen shimmered and vanished. A Jirai guard came forward with a key stick and held it to the cuff. The cuff clicked. The chain slipped from the post and coiled on the ground like a dull snake. The guard stepped back. The small woman did not lift her head. She stood still, as before. Marcus left the stage by the nearest step and walked across the plaza at an even pace. He kept his hands open and his voice gentle. "My name is Marcus," he said when he reached her. "You do not need to be afraid of me." She raised her eyes slowly. They were a deep gray-green color, like stone washed by the sea. Up close, he could see how thin she was. He could also see something steady in those eyes, a strength that did not push or shout. It simply existed. "Do you understand me?" he asked. She nodded once. "I understand," she said softly. Her voice was clear and careful, as if she did not want it to cut anything in the air. He took off his field cloak and held it out. "It is cold," he said. "Please take this." She looked at the cloak for a moment, then at him. Very slowly, she reached out. Her fingers were trembling just a little as she pulled the cloak around her shoulders. It swallowed her frame, but somehow she looked less small when she wore it. Marcus noticed the way her breathing steadied. There were forms to sign and formal, lines to walk. Human command wanted him to confirm the choice twice. He signed without hurry and without letting go of his calm. A logistics officer asked if he wanted to trade. "We can offer you a triad of energy cores instead," the officer said. "We could use your insight back home more than—" "No. Trade," Marcus said. "She comes with me." He did not apologize for his firmness. He did not explain himself to people who would not listen. He kept his voice respectful, and because it was respectful, it was strong. By the time he stepped away from the last clipboard, the plaza had emptied a little. His unit waited by a transport skimmer at the far edge. He walked there with the woman beside him. He did not guide her by the arm. He did not pull. He matched his pace to hers and let silence do more than words. As they moved, a few soldiers stared. Some nodded awkwardly, not sure what to think. One private tried a small smile. Marcus gave him a small smile back. They reached the skimmer. The ramps hummed. The pilot lifted 2 fingers in greeting. Inside, the seats were clean and plain. Marcus motioned to a seat by the window. "You can sit there if you like," he said. She sat and pulled the cloak tighter. Her eyes went to the view. The field spread out below, gray and gold in the late light. A row of human medics waved at someone down on the ground. A breeze stirred flags on the wrecked tower. "My name is Elira," she said suddenly, not looking at him. She said it in a steady voice now, as if the word itself was a step she chose to take. "That is the name I was given at birth." "Elira," Marcus repeated gently. "Thank you for telling me." The skimmer rose. The plaza shrank. The sun slid behind the lowest clouds and made a pale ribbon over the hills. The pilot steered toward the orbit shuttle that waited near the ridge. You going to keep me?" Elira asked after a while, still looking out the window, voice neutral. It was not a challenge. It was a question a person asks when she wants to know what shape the future might take. Marcus took a slow breath. "No," he said. "I am going to protect you until you decide what you want to do. You are not a thing to keep. You are a person." She did turn to him then. Her face showed a quick, bright surprise. It passed, but it had been real. He saw it, and it warmed something in him. "People say many things in a war," she said. "After a war, they say different things." "That is true," he said. "But I try to keep my words the same." The skimmer eased into the shuttle bay. The pilots handed them off to a crew chief with grease on his sleeves. The crew chief showed Marcus and Elira a small cabin near the middle deck. It had 2 narrow bunks, a fold-out table, and a door that slid smoothly. Marcus stepped inside and set his helmet on the lowest shelf. "You can have this space," he said to Elira. "I will sleep in the crew bay near the wing root. There is a washroom down the hall. There is a food unit 1 level up. It is not fancy, but it feeds us well. If you need anything, press this panel here and speak. Someone will come." So, looked at the bunks, then at him. "You trust me alone in here?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "And you should know something else. This door does not lock from the outside. If you want it closed, you can lock it from the inside yourself." She walked to the door and touched the panel. The slider whispered. It opened and closed. She stood with her hand on the panel. The shuttle rose through thin cloud until the light turned clean and sharp. The battlefield fell away like a memory that did not want to look back. Elira sat by the window with Marcus's cloak around her shoulders. She did not speak. She watched, the blue curve of the world slide under the glass. Marcus sat near the door and let the quiet breathe. Ahead, a human cruiser waited in orbit. Its hull looked like a long silver leaf. Lights glowed softly along its spine. The shuttle drifted into the bay, and clamps held it gently. The doors opened to a bright, warm deck. Crew in gray uniforms moved with calm purpose, carrying cases, checking seals, guiding the shuttle down with hand signals. A woman with short hair and clear eyes stepped forward. She wore the stripes of command. "Captain Hale," she said. "Welcome back." She looked to Elira, then held her gaze for a respectful second without staring. "I am Commodore Amina Vale. You are safe on my ship." "Thank you, ma'am," Marcus said. Commodore Vale looked to Marcus again. "Admiral Sato is on a secure line. He wants a status report once your guest is settled. Dr. Lin also asked to do a basic check with full consent." Marcus glanced at Elira. "Dr. Lin is kind," he said in a soft voice. "Only if you agree." Elira's hands tightened on the cloak, then eased. "I agree," she said. "I will meet a doctor." They walked through clean corridors with smooth lighting and soft floor panels. Crew passed them and gave small nods. No one pointed. No one whispered loudly. It felt like a place that knew how to carry the weight of strangers without making it heavier. Dr. Lin's med bay was quiet and bright. Plants grew in a transparent tube by the wall. Their leaves were small and round, and they made a thin, happy green line in the room. Dr. Lin was tall, gentle, and had smile lines around the eyes, as if kindness had been a habit for a long time. "I am Lin," they said, not reaching out a hand, not moving too fast. "Can I check your pulse and look at your wrists? I can also scan for injuries. I do not touch without your yes." Elira's chin lifted just a little. "You can check," she said. "Please be gentle." Lin nodded. They moved slowly like a person walking on fresh snow. They looked at the cuff mark on Elira's wrist. They brought a small light closer, but not too close. "This will cool the skin," they said. "You can stop me at any time." A soft spray touched Elira's wrist. The bruise faded a little. The skin looked less angry. Lynn wrapped a thin band that warmed as it settled in place. "Do you have pain when you breathe?" Lynn asked. "Any dizziness?" "No," Elira said. "Only tiredness." Lynn gave her a packet. "These are mineral tabs. They melt on the tongue. They taste like nothing. They will help." Elira looked at the packet, then at Lynn. "You speak like a teacher," she said. There was no humor in her voice, but there was no coldness either. It was an observation. Lynn smiled with their eyes. "My grandmother taught me to speak this way. It saved me from many mistakes." They stepped back. "You are well enough to rest. If you choose, you can come back later for a full scan." "Thank you," Elira said. The words were simple, but they carried weight. Commodore Vale returned and guided them to a guest suite. It was not large, but it was clean and bright. There was a bed, a small table, a chair by a wide window, and a door to a private washroom. Vale stopped at the threshold and did not enter. "This room is yours," she said to Elira. "You control the lock. No one will come in without your permission. If you need anything, touch the wall panel. You will speak to a person, not a machine." Elira stood still and took in the room. She stepped to the window and laid a hand flat on the clear surface. Stars hung beyond like quiet seeds. "Thank you," she said again. Vale gave Marcus a look that said both respect and caution. "Report in 15 minutes?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," Marcus said. When Vale left, Marcus turned to Elira. "I will go speak to command," he said. "Would you like me to bring food back, or do you want rest first?" "Food," she said after a small pause. "Not too much." "I will bring something simple," he said. He left and walked straight to the command hub. The room was a circle of consoles and screens. Admiral Kaido Sato's calm face waited on the main display. He had silver hair and steady eyes that seemed to weigh words with the same care he weighed ships. "Captain," Sato said, "good work on the ground. Status of the guest?" "She is stable," Marcus said. "Cooperative. Dr. Lin did a basic check with consent. No urgent concerns." "And your assessment?" Sato asked, voice neutral, not pushing. Marcus chose his words. "She is not what she appears," he said. "I believe she is the person we heard about in the Vale brief." The crest on her cuff had the nested circles and star. A guard near her made a reflex sign of respect. "And her bearing is careful, not broken." Sato's eyes narrowed just a little. He did not show surprise. "Do you believe she will speak with us?" "She will speak," Marcus said, "but not if she feels like a tool. She must have dignity in every step. No chains, no open cameras, no crowd." Sato nodded. "Agreed. We are not jailers." He looked aside, then back. "Ambassador Reyes will meet you when we dock at Concord Station. Until then, keep her secure, but on her terms. I trust your judgment. Keep records. Be transparent." "Yes, sir," Marcus said. When the line closed, Commodore Vale leaned on the console edge. "You have changed this ship already," she said, in a dry voice. "I only brought a person on board," Marcus said. Vale's mouth tilted. "Sometimes that is how the big changes come." She straightened. "Bring your guest to the observation deck this evening if she's willing. It is quiet. Fewer eyes to make a person feel like a specimen." "Thank you," Marcus said. He went to the galley and spoke to Miriam, the senior cook. She had strong arms and a quick mind. "Something simple, please," he said. "Warm, easy to digest." Miriam nodded and handed him a covered tray. "Plain broth, soft rice, sliced fruit. Tell her there is no hurry and no pressure, and tell her I put extra care in there." "I will tell her," Marcus said. He returned to the guest suite and knocked softly. Elira opened the door herself. She had washed her face. Her hair, a blue-black shade, was pulled back. Her eyes looked less distant. "I brought food," he said. He set the tray on the table and stepped back. She sat and took the lid off. Steam rose with a clean smell. She ate slowly, with attention, like a person returning to a language she once knew. When she finished, she set the spoon down and folded. Her hands. "You said in the shuttle that you know who I am," she said. "You did not say it then. You can say it now." Marcus did not sit. He stayed at a respectful distance. "I believe you are the hidden heir of the Jirai line," he said softly. "The one some old poems call the Circle's star. I believe your family hid you by making you look like someone of no importance. I believe many did not know, even inside your own people. But some did. They kept the secret by telling another story." Elira did not move for a long breath. Her eyes did not show shock. They showed quiet work, like someone turning a heavy key inside her chest. "At home," she said at last, "there is a saying, to keep a flame, hide it under ash. They made ash around me, plain clothes, soft steps, no ceremony. I learned to speak in a way that did not draw notice. I learned to lower my eyes before the wrong person. I learned to pause at doors, even when they were mine." She stood and walked to the window. Stars reflected in the glass and made points on her face. "I had teachers," she said, "at night, in rooms without windows. They taught me law, history, and songs from before the empire. They taught me to carry words with care. In the morning, I swept floors, I carried water, I stood in lines, I wore a cuff without a name. Both lives were true. Only the first one was secret." Marcus listened with his full attention. He did not move. He did not speak until she finished. "They kept me hidden because enemies wanted my line to end," she said. "They also kept me hidden because friends wanted to use me at the right time." She turned and looked at him. "Both reasons felt like chains. The difference is small when you are the chain's center." "I am sorry," Marcus said. The words were simple, and they were the only honest ones he had. She tilted her head a little, like a bird that hears a low sound. "Sorry is a clean word when it is true," she said. "Thank you." He took a slow breath. "I will not use you, Elira. I will not speak your secret where it can become a weapon. I will ask for your permission before any meeting. If you say no, we do not go." She studied him for a few seconds. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes warmed by a degree. "You are not like many I have seen," she said. "Your commands are soft. They still work. Soft steps can still." "Move far," Marcus said. That evening he brought her to the observation deck. The room was a wide half-circle with a high window that showed space like a quiet sea. The lights were dim. A few crew sat far away, reading or thinking. No one stared. A child's drawing hung on a side wall, taped near a vent. It showed a ship, with a smile and a tiny plant beside it. Someone had written in neat letters, "Don't forget water." Elira stood near the glass and watched a field of slow-moving dust drift past like pale snow. "We have windows," she said. "But they are not for everyone. This one feels like it belongs to any person who needs it." "It does," Marcus said. "Vale keeps this place open. She says a ship must see its sky." Elira took a small breath. "When I was a child, I saw a window like this once," she said. "I put my hand on the glass. A guard told me to step back. I learned to keep my hands at my sides after that. You can touch the glass here." The small room on Concord Station felt like a quiet island in a busy sea. People and ships moved outside like slow fish around a bright reef. Inside, 3 people sat at a round table and spoke in simple words that carried heavy meaning. Elira kept her hands open on the smooth surface. Marcus kept his shoulders easy and his attention steady. Ambassador Reyes kept her voice low and her manner warm, as if the room itself needed calm to hold their talk. They began with small truths. Elira said the Jirai people were tired. They were tired of commands that sounded like iron. They were tired of leaders who hid behind fancy words, while families carried water and fear. Reyes said the human side was also tired. They were tired of guarding bridges and counting losses. They were tired of arguments that solved nothing and meetings that made more meetings. Elira asked for 3 things to start. First, she wanted a safe place to speak to Jirai refugees, not a stage, not a screen, not a parade. A simple hall where voices did not echo like shouts. Second, she wanted access to older laws, records on the station and in the human archive, laws that stood before the worst years of the Empire. Third, she wanted to send a message in plain language to those Jirai commanders who still held power in broken zones. Not a threat, an invitation to talk without losing face. Reyes listened and nodded. "The safe hall is easy," she said. "There is a community chamber not far from here. The architect built it with soft corners, so sound does not bounce like stones. The archive access can happen now. I will give you a reader badge. As for a message, I can transmit under a neutral seal. If you wish, the seal can carry no human mark and no Jirai mark. Only a simple sign," Elira thought, then said, "Use the small star by itself. No circles. A star is a promise to listen." Marcus watched her face as she spoke. It remained calm, but sometimes her eyes brightened when she found the clean line through a tangle. He appreciated that brightness. It was not a show. It was the light of a person choosing a path. They were interrupted once by a soft chime and a station announcement. Docking shift on Ring 3, maintenance on a water line, a school group scheduled for the botany wing. The world kept moving, while the 3 of them shaped something that might change its direction. It felt strange and steady at the same time. After the meeting, they walked without hurry to the safe hall. The hallway smelled faintly of citrus from plants in wall planters. The community chamber was just as Reyes had said. The ceiling curved gently. The floor absorbed footsteps, so each person felt held, not echoed. A group of volunteers had already set out chairs in a wide circle. There was no raised platform. There were no cameras. A simple sign on the door said, "Voices welcome." "Will people come?" Elira asked. "They will come," Reyes said. "The station has many Jirai who left the war behind. Some are workers. Some are students. Some are elders who knew the old songs. Word travels fast when there is a chance to be heard." Marcus stood by the door and watched the faces as they entered. A young Jirai woman with a baby on her chest. An older man with a stiff leg. 2 teenagers with quick eyes. A pair of engineers in stained work vests who kept touching the small. Tools at their belts, as if tools kept them brave. A teacher with gray lines at the corners of the mouth and hands that looked like they knew chalk. Elira did not take the center chair. She chose a seat that faced the door but not the whole room, and then she waited. People settled. The room breathed. "My name is Elira," she said when the air felt ready. "I was hidden for a long time. I learned to carry a voice quietly. Today I am ready to carry it with you, not above you." No one gasped. No one shouted. This was not a show. It was a shared breath. The older man with the stiff leg leaned forward, eyes bright with a careful hope. "We heard stories," he said. "We did not know which ones were clean. Stories can be nets or ropes." "They can," Elira said. "I will try to make mine a bridge." People asked small, real questions. Will there be amnesty for those? Who were forced to fight? How will food move to the places where fields are dust? Who will protect families from revenge when the uniforms change but the neighbors do not? Elira did not promise easy things. She promised honest work. She said she would ask humans to help with roads, water lines, and clinics, not with thrones or flags. She said she would ask Jirai leaders to sit with farmers and repair crews before they sat with cameras. The teacher spoke. If laws must be rebuilt, she said, start with the smallest circle. Start with the voice. If a law cannot be spoken out loud to a child without shame, it is not a good law. Elira looked at her with gratitude. Yes, she said. Will you help me gather such laws? I will, the teacher said. Marcus watched the way Elira listened. She did not fill silences with noise. She let them rest like seeds and then speak when ready. He also watched the door. He counted who came in and who left. He noticed a tall human man in a station vest who paused outside twice and did not enter. He noticed a Jirai youth with a broken sleeve seam and a gaze that kept sliding to the floor. He noticed Security Officer Brand standing at the far back, a respectful distance, eyes alert. It made him feel both safe and responsible. When the meeting ended, people did not rush to take pictures. They rushed to bring lists. Many had written names on paper, elders who needed medicine, wells that needed repair, children who needed school places on the station. Elira took each list with both hands and promised to copy them clean. She did not hand them to Marcus. She set them in a neat stack on her own lap, which told every person that their words reached her, not just a guard. Outside the hall, Marcus and Elira walked through a short garden with thin trees and small, bright flowers. They found a bench and sat. For a few minutes, they did not speak. The breeze through the open vent carried the smell of damp stone. At home, Elira said at last, I sometimes wanted to shout. I wanted to stand on a roof and say my name. But my teachers told me a shouted name becomes a target faster than it becomes a flag. Today felt different. Today felt like saying my name to people who would hold it carefully. They did, Marcus said. And you held them carefully, too. She turned a little on the bench and looked at him. You said you would be a witness with a good memory, she said. What did you witness? I witnessed many small, brave things, Marcus said. A mother who brought a baby to a room of strangers because she believed the room was safe. A teacher who made a law out of a clear sentence. A station worker who turned away twice and then stepped in on the third try. I witnessed a person who could have taken the center chair and did not. Elira's mouth made the small shape of a smile. Sometimes the strongest chair is the one that is not in the center, she said. Ambassador Reyes joined them with quiet steps. She carried a thin data slate. We sent your message with the star seal, she said. We chose 3 relay paths with no political flag. The sending log will show nothing but a routine maintenance ping. It will arrive as a calm knock, not a hammer on a door. Thank you, Elira said. Did any answer come back? Not yet, Reyes said, but a signal bounced from the Vec Ridge zone shortly after. That zone is held by Commander Ruthar. He is proud and careful. If anyone answers, it might be him. Elira's face did not show fear. It showed work. Ruthar was my mother's student for 2 years, she said softly. He learned discipline from her, and patience. Later he learned pride from men who liked mirrors. Pride grew faster than patience. If he is careful, Reyes said, he will send a scout to watch, then a message that says nothing and everything. We will read both. They stood and walked toward the station archive. This place felt like a temple of paper and light. Rows of memory crystals rested in sliding walls. Screens showed old laws with tiny notes in the margins from people who had argued and then agreed. An archivist with gray hair and a small laugh met them at a desk. You must be the one who asked for the older laws, the archivist said, speaking to Elira as if she were any scholar in need of a good guide. I have a section set aside for you. There are slides from before the Empire called itself an empire. I also have family codes that were sung, not written, then later written by the careful ones who remembered well. Elira's eyes warmed. Thank you, she said. I will treat your work like glass. Treat it like bread, the archivist said. Eat what you need. Share what you can. Elira sat at a long table and began to read. Marcus sat across from her, with his back to the room so he could see the door and the side aisles. He held a small reader and scanned maps of Jirai water lines. He marked weak points and paths where relief ships could fly without meeting guns. He did this work with quiet focus. He heard Elira's soft breath and the tap of her finger on a line when she found a truth she wanted to keep. After an hour, a message pinged on Reyes's device. She brought it to the table and placed it between them. From Vec Ridge, she said. Ruthar, Elira read. The message was short. We received a star with no circles. We do not sit with ghosts. We will speak to a voice if it is attached to a person who can walk through dust without stepping on anyone. Elira looked up. He says he will speak if I come to him, she said. Reyes's mouth tightened. That is not safe. He did not. Say I must go now, Elira said. He said he will speak to a person who can walk through dust without stepping on anyone. That is a test. He wants to see if I can move through people without breaking them. Morning came with a pale gold light that made the station windows look like quiet ponds. Marcus woke before the ship's bell and checked the small case by the door. Inside were clean maps, a simple translator pin, and a folded copy of the old oaths that Elira and the archivist had copied the night before. He placed the maps in his pocket and kept the oaths in a thin sleeve near his chest, like a letter that wanted to be close to a heartbeat. Elira was already awake. She had braided her blue-black hair in a plain way and pinned the small translator leaf near her collar. The soft scarf Ravi had woven lay around her neck. The tiny device tucked inside it would whisper to Marcus only if her heart raced, but he hoped it would stay quiet. She looked calm, but alert, like someone ready to walk across a narrow bridge with a steady step. Ambassador Reyes met them at the airlock with Commodore Vale and Dr. Lin. Security Officer Brand stood a respectful distance behind, hands linked, eyes taking in everything without making the air feel sharp. The clinic is set by a slow river, Reyes said. An old ferry dock, some tents, 2 prefab rooms, a line of water tanks, and a field kitchen. We chose the far bank path. Good sight lines, many exits that look like paths, not fences. Local teams? Marcus asked. Mixed, Vale said. Jirai healers, human medtechs, station volunteers. No flags, only simple signs. This way to clean bandages, this way to tea. Elira listened and nodded. Tea is good, she said. Tea tells people they can stay. Miriam from the galley appeared at the last moment and placed a cloth bag in Elira's hands. Bread, she said with a small smile. 3 loaves. 1 to keep your own strength. 1 to share. 1 to give to a person who thinks he is a wall, but is actually a door. Elira's mouth made the quiet shape of a smile. Thank you, she said. Your bread is already a law. The shuttle Vale sent was unmarked and quiet. It slipped from the station like a silver leaf and slid down toward the blue curve below. As they descended, the planet turned green and brown and soft. Rivers moved like patient threads. The pilot set a careful course over low hills and then along a water line that looked like a single bright ribbon pulled through the land. They landed a field away from the clinic so the wind from the craft would not knock dust into clean rooms. Marcus stepped out first and looked around. He saw the old ferry dock with its worn posts. He saw the water tanks with clean lines and a small pump house that hummed like a cat. He saw the tents, white, neat, edges weighted with small stones. He saw people moving with a purpose that did not shout. Elira stepped down and breathed in. the smell of damp earth. She looked at the dock, at the water, at the line of people waiting by a hand-painted sign that said simply, "Check in." She did not walk to the center. She walked to the side where a woman stood with a clipboard, pencil tucked behind her ear, smile that was tired but kind. "I would like to help," Alira said. "Where do you need hands?" The woman blinked, relieved. "Here," she said. "Sit with me. When people give their names, you hand them this small card. Green for the tea tent, blue for the bandage tent, yellow if they need to see the doctor. You can write if you prefer, but colors are faster." Alira took the cards. Her fingers moved steady and sure. "I can do colors," she said. Marcus joined the repair crew at the pump house, a small boy with sharp eyes and a tool belt that was too big, led him to a filter unit that coughed every third breath. "It hiccups," the boy said. "I hit it and it works. But Lynn says we must not hit lungs. We must help them breathe." "That is good advice," Marcus said. He opened the panel and traced the lines with clean hands. The hiccup came from a valve that stuck in the cold. He warmed it with his fingers, added a drop of oil, and then showed the boy how to turn it. With a gentle touch at the right angle, the unit smoothed out like a song finding its rhythm. The boy listened and grinned. "I can teach others," he said. "Then you can fix the things I do not see yet." "That is the best kind of team," Marcus said. Security Officer Brand walked the border. He did not stand tall in one place. He moved like a helpful shadow, making sure paths stayed clear, that tent ropes did not trip small feet, that no one stood where a quick exit would be blocked. He nodded to people. He picked up a dropped cup and placed it on a table. He showed someone how to tie a better knot. He was a line of safety drawn with kind hands. Dr. Lin checked the tea tent and the bandage tent, and then the small room where a clean bed waited for anyone in trouble. They trained 2 local teens to use the simple scanner that counted breaths and turned the machine into a listener, not a judge. Lin's voice was soft and patient. Even the machines seemed to relax and do their work better when that voice spoke to them. By mid-morning, word had reached the far farm tracks that a meeting might happen. People kept coming, not to flood the place, but to add small streams of help. A Jedi elder with a walking stick brought a box of herbs and set them in neat rows by the tea. A human mechanic rolled up with a sack of washers and fixed the tent, poles, so they stopped squeaking in the wind. 2 kids drew a big sign with circles and a star, and then laughed and erased the star and drew a loaf instead, because bread felt truer today. From the ridge came a dust trail, a small group of figures, walking, not driving. They moved in a simple line, not wide, not tight. Marcus saw them first and touched his earpiece once. Brand saw them and adjusted nothing. Alira saw them and kept handing out color cards. The woman with the clipboard whispered, "That is him." But Alira did not turn to stare. She let the line be a line, until the people at the front reached the place where a line becomes a circle. Commander Ruthar stood with 5 companions. He was not in full uniform. He wore plain field clothes and a simple belt. His face was lean, and his eyes careful. He looked like a man who had once learned patience and then set it on a shelf when other men praised speed. He took in the tents, the dock, the water tanks, the pump house, the tea, the bread, the children. He took in Alira, who was handing a yellow card to a woman with a cough and pointing her to Lin with gentle fingers. "You sent a star with no circles," he said when he reached the table. His voice was low, like a drum covered with cloth. "We are not fools. We know what stars mean." "They are promises to listen," Alira said, straight and simple. She handed the last card in her hand to an old man, then turned back to Ruthar and placed both hands flat on the table for a breath, showing she carried nothing sharp. Ruthar did not sit. He looked at Marcus, then at Brand, then at Lin, then at Reyes. He looked again at Aelira. If you wanted a throne, he said, you chose a strange room. I want a clean cup, Aelira said, and a chair that does not become a chain when a person stands. One of Ruthar's companions snorted, softly, not cruel, just surprised. Ruther's mouth did not move, but something in his eyes shifted. Aelira reached into her bag and lifted one loaf of Miriam's bread. She held it out without drama. Take this, Commander, she said. It is not a symbol. It is food. Break it with me, and we can talk like people who have work to do. Ruthar looked at the bread for a long breath. He reached and took it with both hands, not just one. He broke it cleanly. He handed half back to Aelira. We can talk, he said. They did not sit on a stage. They walked. Aelira asked Ruthar to walk with her through the clinic. She did not pull him. She matched pace. Marcus and Reyes followed a few steps behind, then Lynn. Brand drifted where he could see and not intrude. Ruther saw the water unit and the boy with the tool belt teaching another child what Marcus had taught him. He saw the bandage tent where a Jedi healer showed a human how to wrap a wrist without making the fingers numb. He saw the tea line, where an elder poured from a pot that steamed like morning. You wrote to me that you would not use fear to make peace, Ruthar said. Words are light. Wind moves them. Show me weight. Aelira said nothing for a moment. She led him to a small table where the old oaths lay under a cloth. She lifted the cloth gently. The script on the top page was faded but strong. She read a line in a clear voice that did not try to be a trumpet. It was the line about water for guests. It fit in a mouth. It fit in this place by the river. It fit Ruther's eyes as if it had been waiting there. Tavan wrote that, Ruther said quietly, without meaning to say the name out loud. But the name came anyway, like a memory that chooses its own door. I know his hand. He sent these oaths to find me, Aelira said. He told me to carry them like bread. Ruther kept his face still, but his shoulders lowered by a small degree. He reached out and touched the edge of the page with a careful finger as if it could break if pressed too hard. Then the pump house hiccuped. It was not a big sound, but it came at the wrong moment. The tea line paused. The bandage tent paused. Somewhere a baby began to cry, not because of the pump, but because babies have their own reasons. The tiny rhythm of the clinic wobbled, and people looked around the way a flock looks when a bird moves the wrong way. Aelira saw the wobble like a musician hears a wrong note. She did not shout. She did not raise her hands. She stepped to the open space near the pump house, turned toward the line, and spoke in a slow, even tone that carried like a warm light. Breathe with me, she said, not as an order, but as an invitation. In for 3, out for 3. Like the river. 1, 2, 3, out. 1, 2, 3. Her voice was not magic. It was training and care. It had a resonance that touched the part of. 6 days passed like 6 clear steps across a shallow river. Each day had its own sound and its own small work. Aelira spent mornings in the archive with the quiet keeper, copying laws that fit in a mouth. She spent afternoons in the community hall listening to workers, students, and elders. In the evening, she walked the station garden paths with Marcus and breathed the green air. She did not hurry. She did not stall. She kept a steady pace. News from the ground came in cups, not in drums. A farmer sent a message that the wells were open and clean. A road crew sent a photo of a bridge with a rope handrail and a child crossing it with a smile like morning. A clinic volunteer wrote that the tea line was longer, not because of trouble, but because people liked to stand where voices were kind. Security Officer Brand sent a short note. Knots learned, lines clear, people helpful. Dr. Lin sent a longer note. Breath counter used 12 times. 12 calm results. 2 songs started by elders. I hummed along. Commander Ruthar kept his word. He placed watchers on the roads with hands down, not up. He sent 2 trucks with pipe and filters to repair a line that had coughed for a month. He did not send a banner. He sent a small paper with 4 words. Wells open, roads quiet. He signed it with his name, not his rank. The paper hung in a clinic tent like a simple lantern. Not everyone was pleased. A small group called the Edge Hands liked sharp songs. They passed folded papers that said peace would make people soft and poor. They said a rumor that Elira wore a hidden chain made by humans. The rumor walked fast, as rumors do, but it lost its breath when it reached the community hall. There, Elira stood up, showed her bare wrists, and said, "If you see a chain on me, name it. If you cannot name it, do not carry it." People nodded. The rumor set itself down like a tired bird. On the morning of the 6th day, the station felt like a clean window. The ship crew moved with a quiet pride. Commodore Vale walked with them to the airlock and handed Marcus a small case with a gentle grin. "Inside are rain covers," she said. "Meetings by rivers sometimes forget the sky." Admiral Sato called with a calm face and only one instruction: keep the voice safe. Ambassador Reyes wore plain clothes and soft shoes. She carried a single page with 4 lines and space for many names. Elira was ready. She wore a simple jacket and the scarf Ravi had woven. The tiny heartbeat leaf rested inside it, quiet and polite. She held Miriam's cloth bag with 3 fresh loaves. She had slept well and eaten warm rice. She had practiced one small song in her head, not to sing out loud, but to carry like a steady drum if the air wobbled. They flew to the river, the same calm bend with the old dock and the hum of the pump house. The clinic had grown by 2 tents. Someone had painted a small loaf on the check-in sign. Someone else had tucked a star in the corner of the loaf and then erased the star and drawn it again, smaller, beside the bread, as if to say both ideas could live. People came early and did, not push. Jedi elders brought herbs and stories. Human mechanics brought tool rolls and jokes told softly. Children drew circles in the dirt and then smoothed them away so no one would think circles were only for one side. The boy with the tool belt showed off his chart above the valve with a serious pride that made Marcus smile. Ruthar came at the time he had promised. He had fewer companions than before. He wore a plain jacket with the dust of the path on it. When he reached the dock, he did not look around for a stage. He looked for a seat that would not turn into a chain. He did not find a throne. He found a bench. He sat. Elira did not stand above him. She sat on the same bench, one hand flat on the wood, the other on Miriam's bag. The river made its quiet cloth sound against the posts. The tea line let out. A soft cheer when a new pot was lifted, and then the cheer turned into a laugh because cheering for tea felt like the right kind of silly. Ambassador Reyes stood with the page and a pencil. She did not raise the paper like a flag. She set it on a small table made from an old crate and a clean cloth. "We brought lines to read," she said. 4 lines, simple words. If we agree, we sign. Then we do the work. Before Reyes read, the edge hands made their move. 2 people near the ridge set up a tall frame with a small speaker at the top. They started a chant that was not kind. It was not loud at first, but it was sharp. It carried like a thin blade in air. It said that peace was a trick. It said that leaders wore new masks but kept old teeth. It said that anyone who listened today would regret it tomorrow. Security Officer Brand saw the frame and did not run. He walked at a steady pace along the path that did not cross the T-line or the bandage tent. He kept his hands visible. 2 local volunteers walked with him, not to be a wall but to be a shape that said, "We are here." Marcus saw, and his eyes said, "Good." Ruthar saw, and his jaw did not tighten. He waited. Elira stood. She did not look at the ridge. She looked at the circle. She lifted one loaf of bread and broke it with both hands. The sound was small and honest. She held up one half, then the other half. "Bread is not a trick," she said. "It is bread. We break it and share it. We do the same with fear. We break it and share what is left, which is wisdom." She handed a piece to Ruthar. She handed a piece to the mother whose child had breathed better last time. She handed a piece to the boy with the tool belt. She handed a piece to a station volunteer who blushed for no reason at all. She handed a piece to the oldest elder and to a young person who looked like he might run if words went wrong. The loaf became many small pieces. The circle became many small touches. The chant at the ridge faltered. It did not stop. It shrank. When it shrank, the air made space for another sound. Elira did not sing. She hummed the river note. 2 elders hummed with her. 3 children hummed off-key and then found the key. The hum was not a command. It was a ground. Brand reached the frame. He did not touch the speaker right away. He looked at the 2 people and said, "This is a clinic day. This is an open bench day. Bring your words to the circle if you want them heard." One of the 2 shifted his weight, nervous for no clear reason, perhaps because no one had offered a polite door before. The other glared and said no. Brand did not argue. He pointed to the door that did not lock on the edge of the safe hall in his mind and said, "It is open if you change your mind." He turned the small power knob on the speaker to off. The sound cut. Nothing fell. The river kept speaking. Reyes read the 4 lines on the page in a voice that sounded like a good teacher. "The wells are open, the roads are quiet, the clinics are safe. We will meet again often, in plain places." She looked up. "Does anyone wish to add a small line that fits in a mouth?" A small hand went up. It was the boy with the tool belt. He looked at Marcus as if asking if this was a grown-up moment. Marcus nodded. The boy cleared his throat and said, "If something sticks when it is cold, warm it gently." People laughed softly because it was true and also a good way to live. Reyes wrote it down and put a little note. "As above, for people too." An elder added, "No closed rooms for big plans. Every plan sits near a window." Reyes wrote it. A teacher said, "A child must be able to read any rule aloud without fear." Reyes wrote that too. A human mechanic said, "If a watcher stands on a road, his hands point to help, not to blame." Ruthar said, "If a person breaks a promise, we use his name to pull him back, not his neck." The mother said, "If someone needs to leave a meeting to care for a child, the meeting waits, or the meeting moves, or the meeting ends. There is no shame." Reyes wrote each one. The page did not become heavy. It became clear. They signed, not with titles, with names. Some wrote in careful letters. Some pressed a thumb with a dot of tea to make a mark that felt warm. A child drew a small loaf in the corner. The archivist had sent a small stamp in a cloth bag. It showed the star beside the bread. Reyes pressed it once at the bottom. Small and polite. Now Elira did the thing she had waited to do in the right room. She stood with her hands at her sides and her head level. She looked at the circle and at the river and at the old dock with its cracks and dignity. "I will speak a truth," she said. "I carry the old line. Some will call it royal. Some will call it a target. I will not carry it like a crown. I will carry it like a basket. I will use it to bring bread and laws and clean water to places that have not had enough. If I must have a title, let it be this: Keeper of the Smallest Circle." There was no gasp. There was a breath that felt like many people placing a small stone on a shared path so it would not wash away. Ruther looked at her and nodded once. "Keeper," he said, trying the word. "It fits the mouth." A young person, one of the edge. Hands, who had stepped away from the frame, spoke up. His voice shook like a string on a new instrument. "What if someone lies?" he asked. What if someone smiles in this circle and then takes sharp steps outside? Elira did not answer with cleverness. She answered with a shape. She pointed to the crate table with the page. "This is the open bench," she said. "Once each week, we sit here, or in a hall with a window, or in a kitchen with tea. Anyone can ask anything that fits in a mouth. Leaders must answer in words a child can repeat. If they do not, they return the next week with better words. If they still cannot answer, they leave their seat and someone else sits. This is the long rope we tie around power so it does not float away." The young person breathed out and nodded. He still looked unsure, but he looked less